All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Can everyone hear me in the back just fine? Cool. All right, so first off, thanks for everyone for coming by and coming to swing for MiniCamp Atlanta. This is our first year doing this sort of mini one-track conference. We're super excited to get some knowledge about Drupal 8 out of the community. My name is Eric Sinbrett. I'm the president of the Atlanta Drupal News Group. Everyone who's a board member for ADA, would you mind raising your hand and making yourself very noticeable? So everyone over here, that's about it. So we've been working pretty fun the last month or 2 months setting this up, so we hope you enjoy. A couple of announcements. So restrooms out over here, just signs once you get outside, find those. For those that may be missing coffee right now, because I believe we've about run out, Octane Coffee opens up at what, 9:30? 9:30. So you've got another 30 minutes or so, and then you can go swing over there for some nicer coffee. Let's see, what else do we have? Wi-Fi information. Yes, Wi-Fi information is included over here on the left and the right. If you have any issues with that, come find me. Last but not least, so we have a panel session from 4:20 to 5 o'clock. What we're going to do for that is if anyone has any topics or questions or specific areas they want to talk about, I encourage you to come up here to the whiteboard in between sessions and write using the pins over there on the corner. Just write a topic or a question or something you might want to bring up for discussion, and we'll collect those prior to the start of the session, and we'll see if we can kickstart some conversation. So other than that, I think that's all the good stuff. Yeah.
And also, we have a couple other events this year that we've been planning, and we'll be kicking off starting on Monday. Some advertisement. We'll hopefully get the website up and everything for Drupal Fair Atlanta. That'll be in July on the 23rd. We're kind of in the 20s on all of our events. Make it easy for you. But Drupal Fair Atlanta is going to be in this same building, same room, and it's going to be like a career fair and business summit. We're actually going to have our sponsors be or do case studies on Drupal 8, hopefully, as well as between 20 and 25 companies will be here all throughout the day for y'all to come out and interact with. And really, that's anything in regards to Drupal, so any technology that is associated with it, we're hopefully going to be able to have people out here to talk to you about it. Then additionally, Drupal Camp Atlanta, we're going to be hosting that again. Was it the 21st and 22nd of October?
Yeah,
that's about right. Somewhere around there. So registration will go up for that later on in the year. So just follow our Twitter, Drupal Atlanta, to be able to figure that out. Also, Drupal Camp Atlanta is the other Twitter handle for that. They'll be going after both, so just type in Drupal Atlanta and you'll find us. We also did launch a new website as well. Yeah.
Drupal Camp Chattanooga, November.
Chattanooga, November. Yep. If you guys do want to check out our new website as well, drupalatlanta.com. And obviously you can also look up the schedule for today on minicampatlanta.com as well.
All right, without further ado, we'll just go ahead with the first session. I'm assuming you all have a slide to introduce yourselves, so I'll just let that do the talking. If you have any questions, come find me. I'll be sitting over here. Otherwise, please enjoy our MiniCamp Atlanta, and we'll let you guys enjoy the sessions. Thanks.
All right, so welcome. We're here today to talk about Foundation 6 with Drupal 8. Now, I'm just curious, how many people here have used Drupal 8 already? That's a pretty good number. Okay, cool. So
I'm Eric Huffman. I'm a senior front-end developer of MiniCurrent.
And I'm Chris Doherty, also a senior front-end developer at MiniCurrent. And MiniCurrent is a single source provider for Drupal. 60-plus team of developers, creatives, digital strategists, and we've been in business since 2007. And
we're headquartered here in Atlanta, but our team is actually distributed, so we're all over the United States.
Yep. So here's a little outline of what we'll be covering today. So why Foundation 6. How we're going to approach it, and 3 distinct approaches to doing it. So one thing, we were kind of brainstorming how we were going to sort of frame this presentation, and one thing that stuck out with me was, it didn't really resonate with Eric too much, but they were actually, Drupal 8 and Foundation 6 were released on the very same exact day. which is kind of interesting. He wasn't that thrilled about it, but we started thinking about, okay, what's the perfect combination? We kind of bounced some ideas back and forth, and we're both film buffs, and we came up with Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, which is a classic from 1969. I had not seen it, which
I was just impressed that there was a movie that I had seen that Chris hadn't seen, because he pretty much has seen every movie out there.
So I went back, watched it, and I thought, yeah, this is kind of apt, because we're still in the sort of nascent stages of Drupal 8 theming. Yeah, I thought it was like sort of an appropriate metaphor, because we're in the early stages and sort of the Wild West. And did we just lose video?
There we go.
Just unplug the HDMI cable. Sorry about that. So it's sort of the Wild West, and so I thought this was a good metaphor to convey that. So why Foundation 6? We first wanted to talk about a couple of myths about using. So Foundation is it's a
front-end framework. Well, first of all, how many people have ever used Foundation? Awesome. And I'm sure a lot of folks probably play around with Bootstrap or other frameworks. As you've probably experienced, a lot of these frameworks will add a lot of cruft, or usually folks will install and they'll realize, well, there's all this stuff in there that I'm not actually using. And there's one case study that showed that really, with Bootstrap, most of the time it's like 90% of the features in the framework aren't actually being used. And with Foundation 6, the folks at Zurb really paid attention to a lot of these concerns. So with this latest release, they've reduced the file weight or the file size of the CSS and the JS. It's like half the size of Foundation 5. And another concern that folks have with using a framework is that it'll look too similar to other sites that use the same framework. So you could pull up a site like, oh yeah, that's a Bootstrap site. I can tell right off the bat. So they've kind of made it leaner and meaner as far as the UI elements with the framework, so that it's really back to its roots of just being kind of like a prototyping or wireframing tool.
Yeah. One of the nice features about Foundation 6 is that you have the option of using a grid that is flexbox based. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with that, but it's sort of a alternative to using floats for layout, and you have a lot more control over the display. One of the features we're illustrating here is that if you look at the code on the left, you're seeing these divs, and they've got these classes. You'll notice for order 1, order 2, and basically what that's doing is invoking the flexbox rules, which have order placed in them. So with flexbox, you can actually change the order of things in the DOM just using CSS. So what we're seeing here is someone's actually applied the order and is using that in the markup there to change the order in the nav. Another nice feature is just it has all these UI elements, and it's pretty vanilla out of the package. It's just kind of I think it's like Helvetica. The tables are kind of stripped down, so you can kind of go with this. But like I said, you can really customize and trick it out, make it look however you want. So it has nice UI elements like nav bars, breadcrumbs. This is just kind of scratching the surface. There are all kinds of things. But as you dig deeper, there are plugins like there's one called Toggler, which is like a toggle feature. There's one called Abide, which is like form validation. So there's some really nice widgets that you can put in there that aren't necessarily native to Drupal, but would be useful. And there's one other thing. There's a motion UI, so you can do things like CSS animations, which is really cool.
And one of the great things about Foundation is it's SaaS-based, so all of the UI components in the framework have a mixin associated with them. So if you don't, necessarily can get access to the markup and apply the classes that you need to make an element, inherit the foundation styling, you can always just use a mixin to apply that to your own class. And with Drupal 8, this isn't such a big deal because you have a little better access to all the, the twig templates. You can get at the markup easier, but it was definitely, tough sometimes in Drupal 7 to kind of drill down into a menu and actually apply a class to a list item that was nested 3 levels deep. So here's a kind of example, if you can see that, where, this is sort of the basic block template straight out of the box with Drupal stable base theme. And, this would be in the SAS file, we're actually just use that call out mixin, and then you can pass a color variable to it to customize it. And then this would be sort of the rendered block, and it's using Foundation's call out element component that it's really pretty basic. It just kind of gives you but it sets up the structure for it, and then you can apply the styling and colors and other customizations as you need. Another great thing about Foundation 6 is they've really done a lot of improvements to the accessibility with the framework. So all the components are screen reader friendly, and on the documentation on the Foundation site, it actually has a great section on accessibility, and it shows a lot of great examples of where the ARIA labels are used, and this in combination, if you've done some of Drupal 8 theming, you've seen, like again in the stable theme, where they've really you see a lot more to the markup that's for screen readers, and so this in combination with what Foundation provides really gives you a head start to make your site accessible to all. The other great accessibility feature that they added with Foundation 6 is including the what input library. And this is basically just a JavaScript utility that detects what device is being used on your site. So if it's somebody using a mouse, like a lot of times, I don't know, you probably do this where you take like the outline, you turn that off on elements so that if something's focused, you don't get that weird halo around it. That's actually a no-no in the accessibility world, but with this library, it kind of detects if it's a mouse user, then it won't, it will disable that for you. And then if it's somebody that's using keyboard only, they need to toggle to the different elements and see which one is focused on. So that will remain. And there's a link to the GitHub for that library if you want to check it out more. Other things that Foundation 6 offers is the command line interface. So this basically allows you to, just from the command line, if you install their package, I think it's all distributed through Node.js, then you can just with one command sort of launch some of their templates that they provide. So you could, you're not necessarily looking for the framework, but they have like a full template with a package. It's like a whole front end build package. You could just do that right through the command line. And that front end build package includes the new things that they provide, such as Panini, what they're calling their static site generator, and Style Sherpa, which is a neat little style guide generator that basically you just create a markdown file and use the content from that to build a nice little style guide that you can include with your project.
So using Foundation with Drupal, the 3 approaches that we're going to explore a little bit today. One we're just calling simple, one advanced, and then there's also a contributed theme for Drupal 8 in Foundation 6, which we'll discuss briefly. So the simple theme, I pulled this out from Butch Cassidy. I think it's like riding a bike in a way. I mean, you're kind of once you build a Drupal 8 theme, it's actually quite simple. Like just start out with and create a custom theme. So there are 2 things you need just to get started. You create your theme folder, and the path should be from your doc root in the themes. It's a little different from Drupal 7. You're not in sites all themes. It's themes. Typically, I put it in a custom subfolder and then the theme name folder. And there are 2 files that you need. One is a theme name.info.yaml, which sort of replaces .info file, and that was in Drupal 7. So it's very similar, and in what it does. So you're basically, if you look at it, you're naming your theme. In this case, it's sarsaparilla. You're explaining it's a theme, and you list out your style sheets here, and you can set up your regions, however you want to do that. And then, of course, there's this section called libraries, where you can add libraries, and that could be that could include CSS as well as JavaScript. And so that is referring to the other file that you need, which is the theme name.libraries.yaml. And in this, you just, like I said, it refers to the CSS. I didn't include JavaScript in here, but you could also include that. One thing about this I'll say is that so I've separated this out into 2 style sheets here. So one is Foundation 6, which I pulled down from the Foundation website, and then I have a custom style sheet. And the reason I put it in this order is so that it will read the Foundation 6 styles first, and then if I want to override anything, I can do so in the next one. So it'll read them in that order. You could, if you wanted to use Sass, I didn't in this particular example, but if you wanted to use Sass, you certainly could to compile either one of them, really. But I just wanted to show you that structure so that you could have an idea of how they could interact. So like I said, you can download just the CSS and put it into your theme. Might be a little hard to see, but this is sort of a la carte menu for all the different components, if you recall the slide I showed before with all the UI elements. So, you can really make this really as lean as you want it. I mean, in my particular theme that I built, I really just used some essentials, the flex grid, a few buttons, some form elements, and that was it. And it was a very, very light CSS file. So you just kind of go through this page. It's a long scrolling page, and you select the widgets that you want. You can actually, put in like number of columns in the grid, or however you want to do that, customize it there, and it will churn out you can download a zip file, and it will churn out CSS. It'll also minify for you, which is nice if that's your thing, and so that's really cool. And so then you put the CSS into your CSS folder inside your theme. So, and then in the twig file, which is the markup language for Drupal 8, you're going to want to go in and add classes where necessary for the particular, to match up the particular styles with your twig template. So this is a HTML.twig, and I'm just using it just as an example to show how you can add a class that is from Foundation into the twig template, and then you're on your way. So the custom theme I built, I mean, it's right here. You can download it. Like I said, it's very simple. In terms of what I pulled down from Foundation, but I did use a lot of. I did make it look pretty unique from the Foundation basic style. So I can show you that later. And Eric doesn't have it on his computer, so we can swap it out.
So the advanced option, we're calling it, as I mentioned earlier, Zurb has a template out there that has all those other goodies included with it, the Style Sherpa, the Panini, and all that. So what I did is I took a copy of that, and with just adding a few extra files that required YAML files, turned that into a Drupal 8 theme that would include all those awesome build tools with it. So it's a little more advanced. You need to have Node.js installed, and you need to have Git, all this installed locally, and and be familiar with the command line as well as using Sass So, it's a little bit of a deeper dive than just doing the download from the Foundation Zurb site. So as I mentioned, it leverages the Zurb template. You're gonna need Node.js, which is gonna use Bower and Gulp. Bower will install all the foundation files, and then Gulp is a task runner that does watches for changes in your Sass and JS, and then compiles everything. So you'll also get that static site generator and the style Sherpa, and then there's a link to the actual the variant, I guess you could call it, of the Zurb template that I created. That's actually a Drupal 8 theme out there on Bitbucket. So here's kind of just a step-by-step of what you would do if you were to download that. You do the npm install. That's going to install the Node modules, and you can kind of think of that if you're not very familiar with Node, almost like installing Drupal modules. It's going to set up all the functionality that powers the Gulp tasks. And then, as I mentioned, Bower is going to pull in all of the foundation files that you need. And then after installation, you have two commands right out of the box that you run. And start will basically run the watch command so that if there's changes to the SCSS or your JavaScript or any of the raw HTML that uses for the template, static site template, which also uses handlebars too, I should have mentioned that. Then it will build all that in a local URL that's for your development that will actually, it's pulling up that static site, as well as you can see the compiled style guide that it will create. And then it's also using browser sync, so any changes you make, they'll just automatically reload the page for you.